Welcome to the October 22nd edition of Gold and Black Live, joined by Brian Newbert and Tom Diener. We're the top of the show this week, which is, we seem to always be on segment 3, but after the Boilermakers win last week against Iowa, lots of excitement in Purdue football, and we'll hit that here. We want to thank our sponsors, Triple X on the Hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929. Of course, State Farm agent Trent Johnson at trentismyagent.com and Hilton Garden Inn. When tomorrow's a big day, State HCI tonight. Of course, the good folks at WLFI for helping Gordon Jackson and company for putting this on. Tom, I'll start with you. You know, it's not overly simplified. You know, Purdue made big strides. Obviously, the huge win over number 2 Iowa last week. Don't want to negate it by not playing well against Wisconsin, but this will not be a walk in the park tomorrow when the Badgers come to town.
No, I mean, that's the, I guess, one of the big storylines coming out of this week. Obviously, is handling success. Can't Purdue deal with all the pats on the back, all the accolades, all the awards, all the attention that it generated from the, historic win last week at Iowa City, the first win on the road against a number 2 ranked team before Brian Newbert was even born.
There you go.
Long time ago, and, you know, we all know, we've all referenced it the last time Purdue did this, 2018. Of course, they go to Michigan State and they lose. I think it was 23-13 to a Spartan team led by a backup quarterback named Rocky Lombardi. The headline writers could have a good day that day, but Purdue obviously didn't capitalize 3 years ago. They want to this year. Keep the mojo going. They're 4-2 guys. I think in August, most of us thought they probably would be 4-2 at this point. They got there a little different way. Nonetheless, they're here, and here comes their big nemesis, right? The Wisconsin Badgers. So a chance for the Boilermakers to exercise their demons against a program that's beaten them 14 years ago. The last time Purdue beat these guys in Ross-Ade, Brian Newbert was just a student, right?
He fixated on my age today.
Let's see how long ago this was. Let's see how long ago it was. So
when was this?
97.
You
were out of school by then, right?
I was a student. Yeah, I believe I was a
senior,
sophomore or junior, senior, something like that. I don't know. It all runs together. Probably a senior.
It's a great opportunity, and you got like Purdue's chance.
I was a junior.
All
right. We've settled back.
Yeah, I know Purdue's a 3-point underdog at home, but still, I really like Purdue's chances here, guys. It's going to be a fun Saturday. The weather should be good. Place is supposed to be packed.
Yeah, weather is supposed to be good, and I think that's going to be a fun part of it. It will be a really good October football day in West Lafayette. Brian, is it a simple formula? I mean, get ahead, throw the ball over the top enough to get some points. I mean, what's the formula? Purdue hasn't been able to do it against Wisconsin, but it seems to me the Badgers are really challenged offensively. They've got one of the best defenses in the country. Is it just a matter of, you know, maybe trying to get some distance between them and make the Badgers play catch up? I mean, what do you see as the formula to get it done for Purdue?
I think the formula for Purdue is to make a mediocre offense piece together drives on you. Purdue's been very aggressive against the run and the pass alike this year from a defensive perspective. I anticipate a lot of run blitzes, things like that. Make enough plays for loss where you have to make Graham Mertz go back and actually make throws to beat you. Don't give up anything cheap. You know, don't miss tackles. Don't give up any sort of big play in the passing game that Wisconsin's profile thus far tells you that they're unlikely to make. Make it as hard on them offensively as possible by continuing to play defense the way you've been playing defense, and then just make a couple of big plays if you can. It's going to be difficult for Purdue, I think, to string together those 12 to 15-yard drives against Wisconsin. That being said, I would have said the exact same thing about Iowa, and they did a pretty good job of it. But I think that's pretty much the formula there. Make a couple big plays on offense, keep it low scoring on defense, and be happy as hell if you can win this game 17-10 or 24-17, something like that. I wouldn't anticipate this being a very high scoring game because both teams' profiles to this point, I think, suggest that to be the case, even though Purdue very easily could have scored 35 points at Iowa.
Yeah.
Very easily. I shouldn't say easily, but that was very much on the table.
Yeah, 38 points, I think, was realistic, just the way that the game played out. Of course, the pylon play with Sheffield, et cetera, and all those kinds of things that happened. And
the dropped interception doesn't really count for the offense. So that's where things are kind of, that's where the hamster in my head is getting a little bit.
Yeah, Jalen Graham would still be running, I think, on that one. So, Tom, it has been interesting. Graham Mertz comes on the scene as Wisconsin's quarterback in COVID world in an empty stadium against Illinois. Was the first Big Ten game, right? Last year on October the 23rd, goes 21 of 22.
Yeah.
And looks like the reincarnation of Ron Paulus. So I'm kidding, but just, played very well. And yet he's kind of struggled since. Yeah, 2 touchdowns, 7 picks this year. Anything that you're seeing, or what are the Badger folks, and you've talked to them this week, anything that they're seeing that they're just not getting done? What's the take from that standpoint on offenses?
Ron Paulus, that's a deep cut there, Alan.
I know, I didn't mean to say that.
That's going to go everybody.
You got to go back to 1997 or whenever that was, 95. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's when Graham Mertz should have come out with his logo, and too bad NIL wasn't then right after that game. I would have bought Graham Mertz stock after that Illinois game last year, but yeah, he's got 7 interceptions, guys. This team is last in America in turnover margin. It's funny, last week Purdue plays the team that's number 1 in America in turnover margin. Again, Brian talked about the offensive woes for the Badgers. They don't have that alpha running back this year. They got 2 guys who are pretty good, but there's no Jonathan Taylor, or how about this? There's no Brent Moss.
Yeah.
Terrell Fletcher.
Yeah.
But these guys are adequate. But again, there's not that guy you fear. It's interesting though, one of them, Shea Uselli kid, a transfer from Clemson. He's a guy that Purdue recruited very hard out of the portal. They were in on him, and at one point it kind of looked like they may have had a shot at him, but didn't get him. So it lands in Wisconsin. And again, this is the Badger offense. Again, it's just solid. Had its problems. I think Brian laid out the good MO for Purdue here. Don't make it easy on this offense. Make them earn it. They probably aren't going to be able to earn it, just like Iowa wasn't able to earn it. The key matchup's going to be the other way, right? This Purdue offense. Storyline, 3 quarterbacks. Wisconsin's defense, very, very good. Can Purdue's offense cobble the drives together and score enough? That's going to be interesting, guys. And like I said, the 3 quarterbacks, how this system continues to evolve. What's Jeff Brom going to do out of it? Will we still see 3 quarterbacks? So there's a lot going through the head of Jim Leonard, the Wisconsin defensive coordinator, I'm sure. They'll have their bases covered. They'll try to have their bases covered. But again, what will Jeff Brom have up his sleeve here to try to give him an edge, just like he had that edge last week against Iowa?
Yeah, Brian, I thought one of the best things that really come as a broad stroke program-wide look at it is the fact that Purdue found a way to do something that I've never seen done before, play 3 quarterbacks in 3 consecutive plays. Maybe that's happened because of injuries. I get that, but in certain football situations, but just finding a way to be different and make somebody do something different. They didn't run any, they ran 0 trick plays against Iowa, and Wisconsin's again a very disciplined team. You're not going to see that kind of stuff. A lot of that, I wouldn't think. But I mean, to me, that's a big storyline, is the fact that you found a way to make something work in the red zone, but also just kind of changed your whole MO as a football team. Is it as simple as that in terms of, Brian, this is a program that needs to be kind of have a better mousetrap to win, and last week they had it.
Well, Purdue has a pretty damn good mousetrap in David Bell.
Yes, he's amazing.
Creativity is a very positive thing, and obviously 3 quarterbacks is kind of an outlier here and a novelty. But the reality is that David Bell was unbelievable at Iowa, and I don't know what in the world Iowa was thinking by not doing anything out of the ordinary. The one thing that's kind of defined Iowa's program for a generation has been, we do what we do better than everybody else.
Yeah.
But what they do was silly against Purdue, because they didn't really, to me, it didn't seem like they did anything to really try to take away Purdue's best offensive player, and they got burned because of it. And you would think Iowa would go back to its games against Purdue in the past and notice that, hey, we turned Anthony Mahangu into Megatron. David Bell has been killing us for 2 years, literally killing us for 2 years. And maybe we ought to do something about that particular matchup. Wisconsin's going to be all over David Bell. There's just no way around that. Purdue's going to have to figure out something this week to make some offensive hay without being able to assume that David Bell is going to be David Bell this week. That's just kind of conventional logic, but I think creativity maybe matters a little bit more this week than it did last week, because you're going to have David Bell. You can't count on David Bell getting 800 yards receiving this week. I think that's one of the big dynamics of this game to me. The other one is that one reason Wisconsin's offense has been so mediocre this year is that they seem to really be struggling to protect Mertz when he has to drop back and pass. And, Purdue's going to throw a lot of blitzes at them. George Karlaftis obviously has been a force of nature this year. And I think that's kind of what it comes down to. But Purdue's going to have to win this game with offense too. And I just don't know if, Wisconsin's going to concede the same things Iowa, for some reason, conceded to Purdue by single covering David Bell the whole day.
Yeah, you think about the Iowa game last year in Ross-Ade Stadium, a game Purdue won in the season opener, longest pass play, 22 yards. So Bell had a lot of catches last year in 2020, but no big plays, no chunk plays, so to speak, against the Hawkeyes. What they have, a 60 and a 40, I don't know what, 3 or 4 passes that went longer than 22 yards, if not more. So that is going to be an interesting thing to watch. Is what Wisconsin hasn't given a lot of big plays, and I think you're right, Brian. They will try to make life very difficult for David Bell. That will be a storyline that Purdue needs to. We'll have to deal with, and you got to think they've schemed for that this week. Special teams is also an interesting thing, Tom. That Purdue has not struggled in kick coverage last week. I know it was they were kicking into the wind and allowed a long kick return and a couple of those, but Wisconsin's got some advantages there. Purdue's been okay, been above average in field goal kicking with Mitchell Finneran. Again, these kind of games over the years where some strange stuff can happen. Weather looks good, but you see any huge advantage there, or a thing where that may have been the only thing that Purdue really needed to shore up was its special teams play. And we still have yet to see that really come to the fore in a big way this year for the Boilermakers.
Yeah, I think what Ben Jones hit the game-winning field goal.
Yeah.
2003. I remember, what year was it? Ashante Woodyard ran back the blocked field goal.
2000. Yeah.
Craig Terrell. So yeah, special teams have been solid. You're right, Alan. By and large, they haven't really cost Purdue this year. They haven't, I guess, won a game. They certainly can take a step up as far as their level of play. You mentioned Mitchell Finneran hit his first 9 field goals. His first miss, guys, really wasn't his fault. It was a bad snap. The hold was late. I'll give him a break on that one. He missed one last week, came back, hit one. The punting's gotten decent. It's been solid with Jack Ansel. The return game, nothing. Coverage units, like you said, bled a lot last week, Alan. So again, they need to tighten that up, because it could, obviously, we know it can cost you. I always flash back just the Rutgers game last year.
Yeah.
How devastating that kickoff return was for the Scarlet Knights. And then, of course, the block punt against Nebraska as well. But again, I know Marty Biagi's working on it, and they're trying to keep things buttoned up, and they don't want it to prove to be costly here, because these games from here on out, every game for Purdue for that matter, is going to probably be tight. And boy, that we all know that's the one phase of the game that can really break you if you're not on it. So that's certainly going to be something worth watching, like you said. Wisconsin's got a good punter, a solid kicker, not a lot of range from their kicker, but they always have good athletes. So again, that certainly will be a matchup worth watching Saturday.
Brian, last question in this segment, but you look at this is the land of opportunity for Purdue. We've kind of hit that on the front end with that win at Iowa, but you look at, there's still landmines. There's landmines every week, really, for the rest of the season, and that's Big Ten football. Jeff Brom, if he said it one time, he said 100 times, it's a one-game season. and you can't look too far down the road if you're Purdue, but there is opportunity to really do some good things. If you can take care of some business, you could play yourself into at least a pretty good bowl. One would think if, and that's a big if, Purdue can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's one team on the schedule you look at and say, I don't know if Purdue can beat these guys. I don't have to tell anybody who that team is. It's Ohio State. Everybody else, the Big Ten West is not very good this year. Everybody's kind of about the same, except for Illinois. They're terrible. Nebraska is modern Nebraska. But outside of that, that this game Saturday is the most beatable Wisconsin team Purdue has seen in a generation. And that might be overstating things a little bit, but if you can get this one on your home field, you got to feel good about your chances, against Nebraska, albeit at their place. You got to feel good about your chances right now against Indiana to end the season. Ohio State's going to be tough. Michigan State, I think they're playing over their head. I don't think they're that much better than Purdue, if they're better than Purdue at all. I think Purdue's got a great chance here, obviously. I'm forgetting somebody probably.
Northwestern, yep, in Chicago.
Northwestern's, this is the most beatable Northwestern team, Purdue's played in several years as well. So things can set up here pretty nicely for Purdue. Obviously, you'd like to have that Minnesota game back. There's no going back now, but you put yourself in a pretty good position here by beating Iowa. You can put yourself in a great position here by beating Wisconsin, and you should have a pretty good opportunity to do so.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting afternoon. 3:00 tomorrow, Purdue, Wisconsin. And we'll have a lot on the site after that to report and analyze every facet of that game. All right, guys, thanks so much for your expert analysis. We want to, segment 2 will be Buddy Baker, who is Purdue basketball fans may know as the agent to Matt Painter, but also has got some stories to tell about how COVID was a difficult thing for his family, to say the least. And then, of course, in segment 3, we'll have Tim Ratliff and Evan Boudreau. One thing that's important tomorrow for Hammer Down Cancer event to support the Purdue Center for Cancer Research. We'll talk to those guys as well in segment 3. So stay tuned. We'll be back in 2 minutes, and there'll be much more on Gold and Black Live.